Good morning. Welcome to the Speak On It Show. I am your boy, R.W. Coolins. First and foremost, giving out of the guy who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis. How's everybody doing out there? Hopefully everybody's had a good week. We're getting ready to kick off into the weekend. Speak On the Show every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. You can watch it live on YouTube under R.W. Coolins, or you can go to Facebook under R.W. Coolins and watch it live. You can also go back and watch it after the fact. Like, share, subscribe, share it with your friends. Do what you do with the other podcasts that you may watch and listen to and everything. You know, we've been at this for 12 years, so let's get people involved in what we got going on over here. So, again, good morning, good morning, good morning. 10 days, y'all. We got 10 days before November 5th, Election Day here in the United States of America. Election Day is November 5th, 10 days away. And we're going to get these formalities out the way, so let's go ahead and get into this. You know, my normal weekly thing. Let's go here. Just make sure people got it. Can I vote? www.nass.org. Can I vote? You can go here, find out if you're registered to vote in the right way, the proper way. You know, with 10 days out, you still got time. We've been talking about this for over a year now, but you still got time to go in there and get that information. James Battle, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate you, bro. www.nass.org. That's National Association of Secretary of State.org. Can I vote? Let's go to the website. Show the website again. Reggie P. Rowe, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. I'm all over the place this morning, y'all. So this is the website. You can go here, click, go into the website, www.nass.org. Can I vote? You go in here. Once you're in, go to the next page where it says voter registration status. You can go in there, click on that. Drop down for your state. Once you get into your state, next one, put your information in. You can use your last four of your social security, or you can use your driver's license and name, date of birth, that information. And once you go in, then you will be able to know if you're registered, how you're registered, and know that you're ready and able to vote. Now, something I wanted to bring up was that there's certain states that allow you to register at the time you go to vote if you are not already registered. If you aren't registered, or you go in here and you find out you're not registered, don't fret. There's certain states you can do same day registration and voting. You need to check your state to see if it's possible. That's one of the things that we've been talking about here on the Speak On the Show, to make sure everybody was registered in time rather than wait until the 59th minute or the 59th hour. But this is where we're at. We're 10 days away, and it's time to make sure that you registered. Now, a lot of people have already voted. I'm glad that we got people out there. Big Al, my brother, good morning. Appreciate you. I'm glad that we got a lot of people that have been out early voting, getting your vote in, making your vote count. That's good. But I got some things I want to talk about this morning about the voting, because there's some nefarious things going on in this election that we knew. I think we knew. We've talked about things that would come up, ways they would try to sway your vote and try to eliminate your vote or minimize your vote. But I'm going to get into this in a minute. Will Cheney, my brother, good morning. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. 10 days. We're 10 days out. We've been talking about this long enough. There should not be anyone out there that within the sound of my voice that is not either already voted, that is registered to vote and just needs to go and do it, or doesn't know that their state has the opportunity for you to register on the same day that you go to vote. Each state is different. We went through all the early voting states last week. I'm not going to rehash that, but there are ways to get out there and make your voice heard. As I always say, our tagline for the Speak On the Show, no matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. And voting is one of those ways to let your voice be heard. Don't go by and let these people talk you out of voting because they say you don't vote, don't matter, and everything like that. I seen a video this morning where there was a woman going to vote. She was dancing. Older lady. She was dancing. She said, do you know, as early as just back in 1960 in the state of Mississippi, they were charging African-American black voters $2 to vote, but the white voters were being charged nothing. Think about that. 1960. I was born in 66. This is 2024. They were charging black folks $2 in order to vote and not charging white folks anything to vote. That tells you that your vote counts. Don't squander it. Don't blow it off. Don't push it off. Vote. Even if you don't do it in this election, I wish you would. Make sure that you find out what your vote is all about. Understand the electoral college. And I think I'm going to talk about that next week. So everybody gets, I had someone ask me about the electoral college. So next week on the show, we're going to break down electoral college and how it works, just so people get an understanding so they know what to look for after we vote on November 5th or leading up to it. Edward Allen, my brother, they have put their people in place. Trump loyalists, that concerns me. It should be a concern for everybody. And I say that because it should be a concern for everybody, because when it's like they always say, when you start stacking, it's like let me just put it this way. If you have sports going on, they used to say with basketball, you got 5 players on each team, but when the referees are out there, and we had 2 back in the day, but now they have 3, now it's 8 against 5. When you start stacking and putting certain people in place for these elections and everything, this is what our mindset goes to, is the fact that they're doing things nefarious to minimize our vote. Now, mind you, and I want people to think about this. There was a time in our lives that we would go and vote and never think anything of it. All this has come about during the time of Donald Trump and those Republicans. And I won't say it started with him, but we go back to the Tea Party during Obama's administration, the Tea Party with the Republican Party. These are all things where the gerrymandering, changing residential lines and Senate lines in your state for them to get more people in the Senate rather than the people that we want there. They're doing it so they can get the people that they want there in order to change legislation. Case in point, the reason why we have the Supreme Court we have right now is because Mitch McConnell did not allow President Barack Obama to appoint someone while he was in office because the election was coming up, which goes against everything this country was built on, as they say. But we're not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. We're just going to keep on rolling. So here's the thing. When Edward Allen brings up the point about Trump loyalists in positions in these voting locations and being in the electorate and things like that, here's some other things we need to be very, very conscionable about. In Phoenix, there was a mailbox set on fire by somebody. They haven't found a person yet, but it damaged 20 ballots. Now, they didn't say if the ballots were for Trump or for Kamala Harris, but I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to go on a limb here. And I'm going to say, if this mailbox was set on fire, it was probably in an area, a congressional district that deals with a majority of Democrats, because there's no way you can tell me that they would set a mailbox on fire in a highly Republican area. It's just who I am. Let's just talk about it. These are the things that they do at times when they feel that they can't win the right way or by the rules. They go out here. So someone set a mailbox on fire, damaged 20 ballots. They say they could be used, but they're going to look at them and sort this out. Now, this happened about 2 days ago in Phoenix. I haven't heard anything else about it. But there's also some other things going on. I tell you, man, it's crazy with this election. And I'll tell everyone again, do your due diligence to make sure you're being safe no matter where you are during this time, whether you're going to vote, whether you're just going out to eat. Pay attention to what's going on. Look at your surroundings. I know we do it a lot, but make sure that you're really paying attention to the people that are in your area with the things that are going on with this election. But they also, here's some things that I found dealing with the election. Video of Trump ballots being destroyed in Pennsylvania was fabricated. There's a claim a video shows ballots marked for Trump being destroyed in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, while those of Vice President Kamala Harris were put back in their envelopes to be counted. That's the claim. The fact is this: the Bucks County Board of Elections identified the video as fake Thursday afternoon, and the FBI and other U.S. intelligence agencies said the video was manufactured and amplified by Russian actors. The envelope and materials depicted in this video are clearly not authentic materials belonging to or distributed by Bucks County Board of Elections, the board said in a statement. The video was reported to law enforcement. In a statement released Friday, the FBI, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency said the video is part of Moscow's broader effort to raise unfounded questions about the integrity of the U.S. election and stoke divisions among Americans. Now, that's one instance. So there's a video floating out. I couldn't find a video. I'll search for it. But there's a video floating out showing someone destroying ballots that were for Trump and then taking the ones for Kamala Harris and putting them back in the envelope to be counted. It's false. Don't fall for the okie doke. Some people out there will believe this. If you're a staunch Trump supporter, you will believe anything put in front of it. But I'm here to debunk it and let you know in Bucks County, there's nothing going for nefarious up there to deal with your Donald Trump vote, if that's where you voted at. Let's just put it out there. The FBI statement also warned that U.S. intelligence officials expect Russia will create and release additional media content that seeks to undermine trust in the integrity of the election and divide Americans in the coming weeks. 10 days, y'all. Here's another one. Georgia voting machines are not flipping votes. In a claim, a Dominion voting machine in Whitfield County, Georgia, flipped a vote to a candidate not marked by the voter. The facts of it is that's false. The Whitfield County Board of Elections and Registers issued a press release October 19th noting the case involved one voter out of 6,000 ballots cast since early voting began October 15th. The ballot was spoiled and the voter cast a replacement that was counted. A spoiled ballot means you have the opportunity to cancel out that vote, that ballot, and do another one if you did something wrong. Officials said there was no problem with the voting machine. Gabrielle Sterling, Chief Operating Officer for the Georgia Secretary of State's office, said every report they've seen so far of someone saying their printed ballot didn't reflect their selections on the touchscreen voting machine has been a result of, watch this now, voter error. Has nothing to do with the machines, has to do with voter error. However, let me finish this and I got something I want to say on this. The statements followed a post by U.S. Rep, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who claimed on X that a voting machine had changed the voter's ballot in her Georgia district during early voting. She later updated her post to include a statement from county election officials explaining what happened and thanking them for resolving the issue. Now, I want to say this. I understand this saying that there was voter error in this case, but I want everyone to be aware that when you go out here to vote and you're pushing those buttons, at the end, you can review what your votes are. Do not take that for granted. You know how when you was in school, let's go back here. You know how I was in school and they would tell you, go ahead and take the test, but leave yourself time to review your answers to make sure you colored in the bubbles correctly and all that. And a lot of times we didn't do it. Do it now. When you go in here to vote, ensure that the votes that you pushed on are the votes that are registering in the system before you leave. If not, you need to get someone working there to come over and say, hey, I voted here. This is what's showing up. Something needs to happen. Is it the machine? Because I know what I pushed. but this is not showing up. We need to do our due diligence and not rely on the technology alone, but we have to be diligent and make sure we're doing what we need to do. So that's two cases that they talked about that have been going on so far. But be diligent, y'all. Be diligent. And this is the one. This just shows you the lengths that they'll go to for your vote or the person you want in office not to be in office. Intimidation and fear, as I mentioned last week. We are not a people who live with fear, but they want to instill fear in the whole process to sway what we're trying to do. DNC office shooting suspect had more than 120 guns in his Arizona home. I don't know what's going on in Arizona. I know it's a battleground state. An Arizona prosecutor said the man arrested in the shooting of Democratic National Committee office in suburban Phoenix had more than 120 guns and over 250,000 rounds of ammunition in his home, leading law enforcement to believe he may have been planning a mass casualty event. Jeffrey Michael Kelly is his name. This is crazy. Maricopa County prosecutor Nia Bata said that federal agents told her about the large seizure made after Kelly's arrest. Scopes, body armor, silencers, grenade launchers. These were all found in his garage, excuse me, after they did a search, after they arrested him for shooting up the DNC office in Maricopa County, Tempe, Arizona. The sheer size of the cache led authorities to believe this person was preparing to commit an act of mass casualty. Police say Kelly, 60, allegedly fired BB pellets and then gunshots at the glass front door and a window of the Arizona Democrats field office in Tempe. Police found 3 .22 caliber bullet casings while searching Kelly's trash, according to court documents. Nobody was inside during the shootings in the early morning hours of September 16th, September 23rd, and October 6th. So he's a serial shooter. He's been going back and forth doing this. Kelly is also accused of hanging 7 political signs lined with razor blades on Tuesday in I don't know how to pronounce this, Ahwatukee, an affluent suburb in Phoenix where most voters have chosen Democrats in recent elections. There it is. In a suburb of Phoenix where most voters have chosen Democrats in recent elections. Authorities said he also hung plastic bags holding a white powder labeled biohazard from those signs so nobody would mess with him. He's been held on 3 felony counts of acts of terrorism and 4 other counts related to the shootings, according to police. A $500,000 cash bond was set with a requirement for house arrest and an ankle monitor in the event he is able to raise the amount. Now, listen to this. Kelly, the man who did this and had all this ammo, was a retired aerospace engineer who at one time had a top security clearance. That means top secret SCI, security clearance. But he had no criminal record and was not a flight risk. These are the things we're dealing with, y'all. I'm just putting it out there. I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to instill fear, but I'm trying to let you know to be diligent when you're out here moving around during this time, because you have people like that. They have these stockpiles of ammo and all this kind of stuff because they think somebody's trying to take something away from them, freedoms and all that. We hear it all the time. But these are the things that are going on in here. Now, in Texas, and we're going to get through this election stuff. In Texas, a Texas man punched an election worker who told him to remove the Trump hat at a voting site. A Texas man who wore a hat supporting President Donald Trump punched an election worker who told him that wearing items endorsing a candidate are prohibited at voting sites. The election worker, watch this now, identified as a 69-year-old man, was treated at the scene and returned to his election post in San Antonio Library on Friday. Suspect was arrested on felony charges of assaulting an elderly person and could face no additional charges. I want you to look at the trend here. The trend is these people that are doing these nefarious acts consider themselves to be Republicans. These are Republicans. This guy shows up. Now, everyone knows, in most states, you cannot wear any loyal attire into the polls when you show up. You can wear it there, but you got to take it off before you go in. You can't wear the shirt. You got to turn it inside out, whatever you want to do. But in most states, it is illegal for you to vote in attire, like a MAGA shirt or Obama shirt back in the day, or any of those things when you go to the polls. But this guy decided to lay hands on a 69-year-old man because he told him you cannot have your hat on. So here's what went on. And this happened at the end of the first week of early voting in Texas, where long lines have stretched outside polling places. It said the suspect, identified as Jesse Lutzenberger, remained in jail Friday evening, according to Bexar County records. Jail records did not list an attorney, and a phone number for Lutzenberg's home could not immediately be found Friday. Then this is what it says. Under Texas law, wearing clothing for or against a candidate inside a polling place is prohibited, as it's considered electioneering. Lutzenberg allegedly entered the polling location in a red MAGA or Trump baseball cap, according to an arrest affidavit. After being told he had to remove his cap in the voting area, Lutzenberg did and proceeded to cast a ballot, according to Salazar. He then put the cap back on before leaving, followed by the clerk again telling him remove the hat while inside the building. So you can take it off, but you can't put it back on until you get back outside. As the clerk escorted him out of the library, Lutzenberg allegedly threw an elbow or arm back toward the clerk and then turned to punch him in the face multiple times. A 69-year-old man that decides he wants to volunteer to work at the polls is getting punched on because he told a guy that he couldn't wear a MAGA hat because it's against the law to wear these in an election place because it's electioneering. Salazar said there have been several incidents of voters wearing prohibited clothing or caps in the polling places, but they then removed them when the state law was explained to them. Nothing here is worth getting hurt for or going to jail for. This is what we're dealing with, y'all. Brian Hoodie, my brother. Good morning, man. Good morning. This is what we're dealing with. There's a certain, I'm going to say, demographic who feels that they're entitled to do what they want no matter what the law says. And why is that? Because the person running for president has not been held to account for any of the crimes that he's been taken to court for, because the people in power to do that decided they would rather have him as president than serve the time in jail that he should serve. But we're going to change all that in this election, because I want people to understand something. The only reason, and I think you've heard me say this before, but the only reason Donald Trump is running for office is to stay out of jail. He knows that if he does not win this presidency, this election to become president again, he's going to jail. He knows it. His followers know it. We know it. This is the only reason he decided to get in the race again. With his cognitive problems and all the things that's going on with him and how they overlook this and that, everything that they tore Joe Biden down about is the same thing that's going on with former President Donald Trump right now. Doesn't know where he's at. He's got to take breaks. He's taking rest periods so he don't have to do interviews and all these different things. It's no different than the person they would call Sleepy Joe. Well, now we got a Sleepy Trump. Let's call it what it is. But the only reason he is still chugging along is because he's trying to stay out of jail. He's trying to stay out of jail. Here's another claim that came out. There was a post that spread that the claim was Michigan has 500,000 more registered voters than people eligible to vote, which creates the potential for widespread fraud. So they're saying Michigan has 500,000 more registered voters than people eligible to vote. The fact is, this is missing context. While the state does have more total voter registrations than eligible voters, that number includes voters who are inactive but cannot yet be removed from voter rolls under federal and state laws. The number of active voters is far less than those who are eligible to vote, and experts say there is no reason to believe that widespread fraud will result. Still, numerous social media users suggested the numbers were proof that Michigan is trying to cheat in the 2024 election. Among them was billionaire ex-owner Elon Musk, who has committed at least $70 million in support of Trump. And let's stop right there for a minute. I want to bring this. I'm a digress for a minute. Let me say that. I don't know how many of you out there either own or know someone who owns a Tesla. And don't get me wrong, I understand the electric vehicle was a good idea at the time when you first seen it, but this is a time where we got to step back and look at the bigger picture of by buying these vehicles, who we're supporting. Now, a lot of people will say, well, Collins, a lot of these people already got these Teslas. They already paid for them. They drive them, whatever. You can always trade a car in. Don't give me that excuse. You can trade a car in. There should be so many Teslas on the CarMax lot that they trying to give them away. That's just me. That's just me. See, there's certain times, we don't follow through on a lot of things, and we've talked about this before, where like with the Gucci thing, when they were stereotyping people in the Gucci stores and the Louis Vuitton, we say boycott them and all this, but we still got people that go out and buy this stuff and everything. But I'm trying to figure out why people would still be buying Teslas at this time when they've seen what Elon Musk has done with X, where he's eliminating the words of the people who support Kamala Harris or people of color, eliminating their posts and everything like that, and putting a lot of propaganda on there without fact checking or anything like that to help this person win an election. But we still have people that are buying Teslas. I don't get it. I don't understand. And the thing about it, not just that, they ain't that good. Excuse me. I know my mother's listening. They aren't that good of a vehicle. They aren't that good of a vehicle. I don't understand that. But you do what you do. But I'm just saying, look at the bigger picture here. Sometimes, everything that's shiny ain't gold. We ain't got to buy everything shiny just because it's shiny. Let's just go there. All right. And then there's another thing about the election. It says, in a rare move, the Pentagon denies falsehood about troops allowed to use force during the election. In a rare move, the Pentagon strongly pushed back Thursday against misinformation spread on social media that falsely suggests U.S. troops have been authorized to use force against American citizens during the election. No, it hasn't happened and never will happen unless they give this person that's trying to get in this authoritarian aspect mindset and they get him in office. That would be the only way that I can see that happening. So be on your P's and Q's while you're out here voting. If you haven't voted, get out and vote. You know, if you wait until November 5th, I suggest you go earlier. Make sure you're taking your vote when you're going to an election early voting location, either pulling the levers, putting it in the system, or dropping your mail ballot off. And if you're dropping your mail ballot off, make sure you're doing it at a reputable place. Don't just follow a sign because you see it on the street that says drop off mail ballots here, because it may not be one of the sanctioned places to drop it off. There's a lot of people that don't pay attention to that, but you need to pay attention to that. Let's go. So, let me put these slides back. I want y'all to see what we're dealing with here. These are the two people at the top of the ticket. Now, I don't know I've been talking about the top of the ticket for a while, but I don't want people to just disregard the down ballot in this election. There's a lot of consequences to the Congress and the Senate and the people you're voting for to be in the Congress and the Senate, because they're going to be doing the legislation. But these are the two people with their VPs, J.D. Vance and Tim Walz, at the top of the ticket. This week, Kamala Harris did a speech, and I want to say, I think she was in Atlanta. And she called Donald Trump a fascist. Straight up, she called him a fascist. And let me tell you what fascism is, for y'all that don't know, for y'all that do not know. Fascism is a far-right, authoritarian, ultra-nationalist ideology characterized by dictators who lean on military force to quash civil opposition. Trump has repeatedly mirrored the rhetoric of some of the world's most infamous fascist leaders, namely Adolf Hitler, on hot-button issues such as immigration. Earlier this week, interviews in The Atlantic and the New York Times revealed that Trump had, in private conversations, showered the violent regimes with praise, reportedly telling White House staffers that he needed the kind of generals that Hitler had. So Kamala Harris, because she was asked the question, does she think that Donald Trump is a fascist? Everything we know about how he talks about authoritarians and how he has this love for Putin and talks about Hitler and all these things puts him in that category of being a fascist. He has called her a fascist. But this week, yesterday, I think it was, Friday morning, we had two sitting House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell released a joint statement Friday morning claiming that it was Vice President Kamala Harris and her decision to formally label Trump a fascist that has ushered more violence into the presidential race, as opposed to Trump's dangerous and economical unstable policy goals. So I want you to listen to that now. The Speaker of the House and the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, they did a joint statement saying that Kamala Harris, her statements of calling him a fascist are the reasons for the assassination attempts. She needs to tone down her rhetoric, so on and so forth. And it also says Harris must abandon the base and irresponsible rhetoric that endangers both American lives and institutions. Memorializing the assassination attempt on Trump in July, the conservative leaders argued that the Democratic nominee for president of the United States has only fanned the flames beneath a boiling cauldron of political animus. Her most recent and most reckless invocations of the darkest evil of the 21st century seem to dare it to boil over, Johnson and McConnell wrote. The vice president's words more closely resemble those of President Trump's second would-be assassin than her own earlier appeal to civility. Now, I want you to hear the hypocrisy and what that statement said. Donald Trump and his people have been able to say anything and everything about anybody and everybody, and no one bats an eye. Kamala Harris is asked a question if she thinks Donald Trump is a fascist. And by the definition and what he has said he wants to do, be a dictator on day one and so on and so forth, we all heard it. They're saying that she needs to turn down the rhetoric of speaking to him or speaking about him, and she was the cause of his assassination attempts. Let that sink in for a minute and think about how many times we have heard this type of language, and I'm going to bring it to this type of language when it comes to people of color being held accountable for a different set of standards than the racists, the white nationalists, the white supremacists in this country. Think about that. You have a woman running for president who is acting vice president right now, who is also a senator, who's been a DA, who's been a district attorney and an attorney general in the state of California. And you have two people, a House Speaker and a Senate Majority Leader, coming out and saying that she needs to turn her rhetoric down when she's talking about the person who has the most rhetoric of anybody to demonize and minimize anyone and anybody that he doesn't agree with. Are we serious right now? And I'm still trying to figure out, from my military experience, and I'm going to go back to my military experience, and I want to talk to people that have served this country or people that you know have served this country. And think about everything we fought for or we stood for as military members for this country abroad and everywhere else in this world. How anyone with a military background, veteran, so forth, whatever you want to call yourself, can still stand in alignment with this person, with everything that he has said, not only about other people, but military members as a whole. Call them losers if they've been killed. Goes to Arlington, which is one of the most sacred places for military members who have lost their lives in battle, and disparage them, go against every rule that they have about taking pictures and videos, and you can't do political events there and all this kind of stuff, and he's done it. And then you still have veterans and military members who are willing to support this person. But Kamala Harris, let me get it right. Madam Vice President Kamala Harris is being held to a different standard when she speaks what she knows to be truth by his actions at this time. This is the world we live in. This is the world we live in, where you can have people that are misogynistic, racist, nationalists, anti-Semitic, all the things you can think about to deal with anything against a person that doesn't look like them, and they still find a way to flip it around and put it on the person of color. Like I've said on here many times, when we talk about racism, you get mad because I bring it up, but you're not mad at the ones who continually to show the racist actions towards me and those that look like me. Make it make sense. James Battle. J.D. Vance called Trump Hitler and he got picked for VP. John Kelly said he's a fascist. She should keep up the heat. I think she should keep it up too. I think she should keep it up. And I think each and every one of us should keep up the heat as well. We need to start speaking up louder. We should have been speaking up louder, and I'm guilty of it. We should have been speaking up louder leading up to this, because there's a lot of things that we just take for granted that we can't say, but they can say. And we got to get to a point where we start speaking up about the things that we find nefarious, things that we find that are not just, and let our voices be heard. No matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. I'll stand on that, because what I find is that we can sit back and expect everyone else to do what we should be doing. Yes, we're going to vote Kamala Harris into office. That's our plan. That's our movement. But what after that? What are we going to do after that? And I got something I want to touch on with that, but I bring that up now. But what are we going to do? I want you to think about it. What is next? What's next? Because we aren't holding to account the people that legislate and do what they're supposed to do for us, for the will of the people. We're not holding them to account at the lowest level of government all the way up to the president. And I'm talking to the African-American Black population in this country. We do not hold them to account for what they say they're going to do to ensure that they're doing it. We don't. And I want to start with this. I want to go to this real quick. I'm jumping around, y'all, but y'all bear with me. James Battle, I appreciate you, my brother. James Battle sent me this morning, and I spliced it up real quick to give you the front part of it. It goes into what I was just saying, that we can have people that don't look like us talk about us and beat us down with no impunity. They'll talk about us, they degrade us, but when we bring it up or we push back, we're race baiters, or we're anti-white, all these different names they want to put on us for standing up for what we know is being done against us. But I want to play this video. And again, thank you, James Battle, for sending me that this morning. It took me a minute to get in there, but I got it. But it was on Roland Martin, but there was a pastor, and I think it's Falwell's son, if I'm not mistaken, talking. I'm gonna let y'all watch the video, then we'll get back. Let's just go ahead and pull it up. Here it goes. This is what I'm talking about.
I don't know if y'all saw this video of this crazy deranged fool who had the audacity to challenge the black church when it comes to this election. And so the look on his face like, yeah, I saw that video. So y'all go ahead and roll Donnie Swaggart, who is the son of Jimmy. It's a whole lot I can say. Jimmy Swaggart, because we got to play this, and I got to get a comment. Go ahead, roll it.
Devon Franklin.
Now I'm fixing to make some people mad right now. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be, for the statement I'm about to make, I'm going to be called a racist. And I will be called every name under the sun. But somebody needs to stand up and speak to the black church. When the largest African-American Pentecostal denomination, when that leader stands up and said, I endorse that woman, he was saying, I endorse murder. I endorse homosexuality. I endorse lesbianism. I endorse transgenderism. I endorse every evil that hell could prosper or bring up to the right. That's wrong, folks. And the black church votes predominantly for the party that is anti-God. What's going on here? What's going on? See, my statement to them is this. We've had them call into the program. I don't like it when you talk about life. Well, no, the problem is they don't like it because we're stepping on their toes. Hello? But I guarantee you, if 1860 was today, they wouldn't say a word about preachers preaching against slavery. They would trumpet it, and they should. So then, why will not the African American church stand up for righteousness and stand up for the Word of God? Come on, church. Come on. You can call me a racist. You can call me every name under the sun, but I am right. I come against you in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. You don't vote for somebody just because mama voted them or daddy voted for them, but you vote according to the word of God.
There's so much. There's so much to pull from that. But let me start with this part. That woman, not the vice president, not Kamala Harris, that woman. That's number one. That's where it starts. Number two, for me, I know y'all chime in if y'all, I'll post this too. Thanks, like I said, again, thanks to James Battles for sending me this. But did you hear the veracity, the vitriol in his voice when he's addressing our pastors who decided they were going to endorse the best person that they feel should be president of this country moving forward. However, he touched on everything that the Black church should be looking at: transgenderism, homosexuality, all these different things that they can talk about. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say there are those type of people in his congregation, maybe just being quiet, hiding, because they know the vitriol that's going to come towards them. But if you noticed in the video, when he walked to the side over there, when you see the people sitting over there, there was one brother sitting back there who looked very uncomfortable. I would ask, and I would like to know if he stayed for the whole sermon. Just question. Hypocrisy at his finest. Yeah. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? I mean, are we serious right now? This is where, for me, when I see this, and this is what I'm talking about, they can say and do anything and everything that they want to do and say against us. But when the tables turn, you can't say that. Oh, well, you're this or you're that. And they give us all kind of names for when we try to stand on the principles of what we know to be real. This country is not a racist country. Everything he just said from the pulpit was racist. The Black church. And then he mentioned, because they're voting the way their mama voted or their daddy voted. White America has been doing that since day one. Since elections started, they have been voting the way their mama and the daddy and the granddaddy and the grandpappy and so on and so forth has voted in this country. Because they've been voting through history with the mentality of white superiority. Let's just call it what it is. They've been voting according to white superiority. Jesse Jackson, when he ran, Shirley Chisholm, when she ran, they were not ready. Barack Obama, when he ran, tables were turning. But now we've gone right back to where we were with Kamala Harris on the ticket. They're not ready. And they're letting you know they're not ready by putting all this stuff out there to let you know. And I'm going to go here again, and I want to repeat this. Kamala Harris, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, at this time serving as vice president, soon to be president, I'm going to put it out there, is the most qualified person to ever run for the office of president. You can go back and look it up yourself. Go back and look at her credentials and look at the other credentials of the people that have sat in that seat and tell me she is not the most qualified person to ever run for president of this United States of America. And then take the resume of former President Donald Trump and put it up against anybody, not that has ever won, but who has ever ran for president, and look at his qualifications compared to them, and he should never even have been a candidate for president of this United States. If we're just using resume, but people overlook that. People overlook that. Because what we always hear is we have to be 10 times better to just get in the door. we have to make sure that all our I's are dotted and T's are crossed before we even looked at for a position. Or someone that doesn't look like you has to be the one to present you to say, hey, I got a guy, or I have this woman that I know is well qualified for this position. And you know why it gets co-signed? Because it came from one of their own. Just call it what it is. Call it what it is. Brian Hoodie, he also broke the Johnson Act from the pulpit. Yes, it did. Separation of church and state. But, you know, they don't care anymore. They don't care. They just do what they want all willy-nilly. There's no consequences to their actions. And this goes back to what I was going to talk about in a minute. There's no consequences to their actions to do what they do because they will continue to do it because they continue to get away with it. When we talk about Kamala Harris and her record of accomplishments for Black America, I found this article from Natasha Alford. And it said a viral reparations clip led to an online debate about whether Kamala Harris would do anything for Black Americans. We decided to compile a brief list of her records. So there was a question asked of Kamala Harris about how she feels about reparations. Her comment was, and her answer was, I'm here to do everything for the American people, not just certain people, which is the company line if you listen to anybody running for office. But she's being held to a different standard when it comes to her views on reparations. And it seems to minimize everything she's done up to this point that has helped the African-American Black community. And it goes here. The Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act of 2021. She co-sponsored legislation making lynching a federal hate crime. They don't want to talk about that. COVID-19 Bias and Anti-Racism Training Act of 2020 introduced a bill to allocate $200 million for addressing racism and bias in healthcare during the COVID-19 pandemic, specifically aimed at improving outcomes for Black people. We don't hear about that. Justice and Policing Act 2020 co-introduced this legislation with Representative Karen Bass of California and Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey to increase accountability for law enforcement misconduct, ban chokeholds, prohibit no-knock warrants in drug cases, and create a national registry for police misconduct. The bill aimed to address systemic racism and improve relations between law enforcement and Black communities. When is the last time we heard of Justice and Policing Act? Heard about it? Anybody talk about it? Anybody say anything? Anybody doing anything about it? Black Mental Health Caucus 2020, Federal Maternal Health Day of Action. As vice president, she led the first ever federal action day at the White House to raise awareness of maternal health disparities for Black women. Housing appraisal reform in 2023 introduced a plan to address the racial bias in home appraisal that led to Black homeowners receiving lower valuations than their white counterparts. I've talked about that many times on here. I've given examples about how houses were being appraised lower because they had pictures of themselves and their Black family on the walls of their home. So when the appraisal comes, it's $500,000 less than the person across the street. What are we doing? Funding for HBCUs, it's an ongoing thing. Small business support, ongoing. Reconnecting Communities pilot, secured $185 million to dismantle infrastructure that segregated Black communities and created transportation barriers. Opportunity agenda for Black men, proposed $20,000 in forgivable loans for Black entrepreneurs, improving career pathways for Black men to become teachers and principals, and legalizing recreational marijuana. But she hasn't done anything for the Black community. She hasn't done anything for Black men. She hasn't done anything from what we hear for Black Americans, African Americans. But this is the question I want to ask. And I'm going to wrap it up with this today, but I want to ask this question. We've heard how the Black vote is starting to move over to the Republican side. I don't think it's at that large a capacity, but there's some trickles here and there. They say they did a survey and said 1 out of every 4 African Americans that they surveyed said they were going to vote for Trump this time. That doesn't mean they're going Republican. That just means they're going to vote for Trump. But anyway, either way. And I found this by April Ryan, who I'm a big fan of, on the Griot. And the title of the article says, will Democrats and Republicans better engage Black men after November 5th? Will Democrats and Republicans better engage black men after November 5th? And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because we hear our young black men saying they've been taken for granted. We hear that we need to get off the Democratic plantation. We hear all these different things during election time. They don't pay attention to us. They're not doing this for us. They're not doing that for us. But we don't hear about it until election time because we don't make ourselves available until election time. We are not out doing what we need to do and wield the power that we have on a daily basis as a black community, to push our will of what we want on these people that are holding these offices that we vote in office. We don't do our due diligence with that. Comedian D.L. Hughley tells the griot, it is time for black men to wield political power that is available to us. No president, and I want to make sure I read this, no president has made a concerted effort to focus on the plight of young black men since the Obama administration. During his second term, President Barack Obama's My Brother's Keeper initiative focused on minority boys and young men with particular emphasis on African Americans. The effort became a permanent and central part of the former President Obama Foundation. The nonprofit organization is said to have had great success in places like Omaha, Nebraska, and Newark, New Jersey. We found a yearning for young black men to feel like they were loved and that their future matters, said Broderick D. Johnson, former Obama White House cabinet secretary and head of the administration's My Brother's Keeper initiative. He told the griot there was a role for the private sector and government to play, but there was a role for them to play in their own success. There was a role for them to play in their own success. They're talking about young black men in this country. So I go back again. Will Democrats and Republicans better engage black men after November 5th? We should not be waiting for them to engage us after November 5th. We need to start getting together and engaging them. This election is very important. We all know this. And no matter who gets in office, we need to be pushing our narrative to them, not letting them dictate to us what our narrative is going to be. I'm trying to come up with a way or a plan on how we can do this, not only where I am, but all over this nation. Because one thing that we don't do, and I'm going to say it this way, one thing that we don't do is we don't look at the power that we have and use it to the best of our ability. We have the largest buying power in this country as an African-American community, and we don't use it. We have the ability, watch this. We have the ability with our buying power to shut things down if we choose to. We all just have to get on the same page on why and what impact we want from it and what we want when we come out on the other side. I don't think we do enough of that. So the initiative is, what do we need to do as a whole? Everybody may not agree, but when we dig into this, we're going to find out that we're going to agree to disagree on a lot of things, but there's one thing that we can't and we will not disagree on is our influence and our buying power in this country. And I won't even just say in this country, in this world, because we minimize ourselves to think that we're just a consumer, but the consumer has more power than we give ourselves credit for. So when the question's asked, will Democrats and Republicans better engage black men after November 5th? No, we're not worrying about them engaging us. We need to engage them. And it needs to start at the local level. No matter who's sitting there, and I'll say it this way. There's a lot of times that we sit back and we elect someone that looks like us in the office at a lower level and even at the highest level. And we expect them to change everything for us. Those days are over. We have to take our power back and impose our will on what we want from them. And I don't think this is something we've done. Now I'm just going to go out on a limb here. I don't think this is something we have actually done since Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I have not seen any. Think about it. The sanitation workers strike, the bus boycott. I have not, I don't think, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, give me some background, but I don't think we have imposed our will in the way we can in this country to get what we want. We can't continue to talk about we're being taken for granted when it comes time for elections, when that's the only time we voice our opinions about what we don't like. We can't continue to say we're taken for granted as far as a community when they're changing the lines of how our senators are going to be voted in because they're gerrymandering the election lines and things like that. If we're not getting involved to find out how are they able to do this and what are we doing to vote them out so we can get people in there that are going to hold them to account. Now, I don't want anybody to think that I'm trying to down talk anybody, that nobody's doing what they need to be doing, anything. No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that we have the power. We have the power to control a lot of things that we don't control simply because we expect someone else to do it. And when I say someone else, I'm talking about the people that we choose to vote for that look like us, that have our best interests at hand to put them in office. But then once they're in office, we expect them to do everything for us, but we don't hold them accountable when they're not doing what they should be doing for us. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I'm open for conversation on this. I'm open for, and we'll probably have one of the soul sessions with the fellas on this. And I want to have some women on here as well with the soul sessions with the women to discuss this very thing. What do we need to do? How do we need to jumpstart the fact of not waiting 4 years from this election to tell them what we want from our candidates? How do we do this? How do we go about it? Because it's been done. It's been done. As I said, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, they did it. But I think sometimes we get a little complacent and expect the people that we put in these positions, we expect them to do everything. But they're only in the positions because we put them there, and we got to hold them to account, no matter if they look like us or not. This is where we fall short sometimes. If somebody, we get them in there, yeah, hey man, congratulations, glad we could vote for you, get you in there, and then crickets. It happens at the school boards, happens at the alderman, happens at the councilman, happens at all these different locations. You know, town hall meetings we don't attend, and y'all have heard me say this many times, we don't go to these things. We don't go to the school district meetings. We don't go to the town halls. We don't go to these things when they're talking about voting on something that's going to impact us, but then we complain after the fact. We got to get better. If this election here is not a wake-up call to the fact that if you have the complexion for the protection, you can do anything and everything you want in this country. But if you're a person that is brown or considered black, African American, black, Hispanic or anything like that, it's time for us to wake up and look at the bigger picture that the buying power and the impact that we can have in this country lies within each and every one of us if we want to make a change. Not just going to the polls and voting for who we want to see sit in office, but holding them to account for the things we want to happen, not only at the local level, but at the top level. This abortion ban and all this kind of stuff, think about how that was able to happen. Because they played chess while we were still playing checkers. That has been in the works for years and years and years. It's not going to happen overnight, but we got to start somewhere. That's what I wanted to put out there. Will Democrats and Republicans better engage black men after November 5th? No. But what are we going to do to engage them? That's what I'll ask. What are we going to do to engage them? There was one more thing I wanted to touch on, but I think I'm going to go ahead and let that go. But there was I think it's right here. Let me see. This right here. And then I'm going to let y'all go. This is a site or a page for a guy called the Black Insurrectionist. I follow back true patriots. With over 17.4K following, 35.2K followers. And they've had this up, and it's been spreading propaganda and everything. And this week they found out the Black Insurrectionist, and you see the picture of a black military member and on here and everything. So what they found out this week after investigating was the Black Insurrectionist is actually a white guy. I know y'all ain't shocked of how this works, but it's actually a white guy. His name is Jason G. Palmer. And the deception did not stop there. Black Insurrectionist, the anonymous social media persona behind some of the most widely circulated conspiracy theories about the 2024 election, can be traced to a man from upstate New York. He's also white. With a profile photo of a black soldier and a tagline, "I follow back true patriots," the account on the platform X amassed more than 300,000 followers while posting dubious claims about Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Some were amplified by former President Donald Trump, of course, his running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, of course, and the Republican allies in Congress, of course. The most salacious claims have come in the closing weeks of the campaign. Last month, the account posted what Black Insurrectionists claimed was an affidavit from an ABC News employee alleging that Vice President Harris was giving questions in advance of the network's debate with Trump, which ABC News vigorously disputed. Trump approved, though, declaring, "I love the person." More recently, Black Insurrectionists posted a baseless claim alleging inappropriate behavior between Walz and a student decades ago, a falsehood that U.S. intelligence officials said sprang from a Russian disinformation campaign. The reach that the Black Insurrectionist account attained with assistance from Trump and his allies demonstrates the ease with which unverified information from dubious sources can metastasize online to shape public opinion. The speed and scale of disinformation has been an animating force in the presidential campaign, with the potential to affect the outcome in a close election. The Black Insurrectionists. Jason G. Palmer. And I want to tell y'all why I decided to bring this up. When we go on these pages, we share a lot of things. But we don't fact check before we share. We're all guilty of it once or twice, posting something that we shouldn't have posted because we didn't do our fact checking and everything. But this is where the problem comes in for our young Black men that we talk about who are leaning more towards Trump. It's because they make this page where it looks like a Black Army soldier in his uniform called the Black Insurrectionist, and he's putting propaganda out here, lies, falsehoods against Kamala Harris about this, that, and whatever, and people are eating it up like candy. Yes, it's happening during this election, but it's going to continue to happen unless we do something about it. They make fake pages all the time because, as they always say, there's some fat guy, excuse me. There's some overweight guy in his basement, in his mother's basement, doing stuff like this. And nobody pays attention to him because they take the stories and run with it, especially on the Republican side, where I just named all these politicians who took anything that this person posted and took it for truth and ran with it, just so they can get ahead. This is what we're dealing with, not only during this election, but in life. The propaganda, the lies told, the vitriol, all of the above. These things happen consistently, and we need to do whatever we need to do to impose our power and our will and how we're going to be treated from 2024 after the election moving forward. We need to get off the couch. We need to turn off the football games. I mean, you can watch football games and make sure you're doing the work in between, but we need to put our focus on making this place better for us as a whole, rather than waiting for someone else to do it for us. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I'll be back again next week. 10 days. 10 days to election day. If you have an opportunity to early vote, go early vote. Get it out of the way. Make sure it's a reputable place where you're dropping your ballot off. If you're doing a mail-in ballot, dropping it off. I do not suggest anybody mail in a ballot unless it's absolutely necessary. If there's a place you can drive and drop it off, take it and drop it off. If you got a place where you can go and vote in person, go and vote in person. Do not leave your vote in the hands of someone taking your envelope and throwing it in the trash or burning it. Any of the above, or not even making it to the counting location. Don't take that chance. Don't take that chance. 10 days. We're going to continue reporting on this, and I appreciate everybody. And I'm planning to do a show on election day. So we'll see how that works out, but we'll see how the time and the schedule works. But I appreciate everybody tuning in every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, YouTube, RW Coolins, and Facebook, RW Coolins, COOLINS. Go there, like, share, subscribe. We're going to keep doing this. And once the election's over, we're still going to be talking about things we need to do, but we're going to pivot. We're going to pivot into some other conversations, some growth conversations, some things that's going to help us individually as well as in the masses. So tune in, stay tuned. We're going to keep rolling. As I always say before I sign off, love yourself, love one another, keep your head up, and most definitely keep your faith in God. I'll see y'all again next week. I'll holler. I love y'all. Peace.